Just 1 second.
Yeah, I can't start the video.
هاي مش بتقولي كلمة.
Karama, I can't start the video because the host stopped it, it says.
1 second. Okay, so we are live and welcome everyone. Just sorting out. Okay, can you try to turn on your videos?
Okay, yes, I'm here. Okay, great. Okay.
Who's Emmy Zulaifa?
Hi, it's me. I don't think I have the green screen kind of, so the
Did
virtual
you
background will
want
look.
to record to your computer?
Yes, I do, if it's possible.
You want to record the Zoom
Yes.
into your computer? Okay.
Yes.
أنا كيف All right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. You know, I want to say the interpreters asked us to turn our cameras off to ensure that the system is working. I'm not sure why there are more than one Lamahouri. Do you see me? I don't see me. Or maybe myself.
Oh yeah, there's two Lamahouri.
Yeah, why not?
Lama, you can see me. I'm in.
Yes, we can see you. Yes.
Thank you.
So
Lama, you're muted. We can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. So, okay.
Lama, just 1 second, 1 second. So who will be host after me?
Tere.
Tere? Where is Tere? Okay, Tere Bertucci.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So welcome everyone. So wonderful to see you all here. If I may ask if everyone can close their camera and mic, because the interpreters need us to do that so they can receive the sound clearly. We have interpretation in English, Arabic, French, and Spanish, and we are really grateful. We want to make it as easy as possible for them. So let's see. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. We're here from all over the planet. Some of us are already on Saturday morning. Salam hub lil jamia. My name is Lama Khouri. I'm a co-founder of the Palestine Global Mental Health Network and honored to be a member of Doctors Against Genocide. I speak to you from the stolen land of the Lenape people. And I want to remind us all that here once lived mothers and fathers, children with wide eyes, men and women full of grace, sisters and brothers who knew laughter, harvest, dances, and songs. They were murdered, betrayed, erased with the casual cruelty that no one cared to name. Their spirits linger in the soil, the wind, the quiet spaces between our words. The NDN Collective reminds us of the link between Palestine and Turtle Island. They say, and I quote, "Just as we fight and organize to claim land here on Turtle Island, our Palestinian relatives fight and organize to return to the land and for the land to return to the people." End of quote. I end this acknowledgement by affirming the aspiration of Chief Teminent, and I also quote him, "May there be harmony between indigenous peoples of this land and all who live here as long as the rivers flow and the stars shine." End of quote. We gather here under a crushing weight of grief, witnessing genocide in Palestine and Lebanon. Ceasefires are mocked by ongoing brutality. While some in Gaza return home to rebuild, threats of annexation and ethnic cleansing loom. Our people refuse to leave, echoing Dr. Mustafa Barghouti's words, "We will not leave, we will die here." Part of us yearns to stand on the land, on our land, to survive there, to be buried there, never leaving. Yet many of us are far away, with roofs over our heads and no fear of bombs, haunted nonetheless by nightmares, anxiety, despair, and rage. Some of us have severed relationships or jobs rather than remain complicit in silence. If you feel this heartbreak, you're not alone. We name it, so our collective grief binds us rather than isolates us. Our adversaries believe that they can break our resolve. They want us exhausted and hopeless. They underestimate our sumud, the resilience that raises us again and again, committed to liberation and the memory of those lost. Why we are here? The path is not easy. It can wound our souls and crush our spirits. That's why we've gathered a global community of psychotherapists, psychologists, doctors, and other experts to help us understand and withstand the emotional toll of witnessing genocide. The images of demolished homes, orphaned children, many with amputated limbs, the voices of those who survive only to live in fear, and the loss of entire families haunt us all. We also face a world largely indifferent, where political calculations overshadow moral duty. Although a ceasefire exists, a so-called ceasefire exists, Israel continues its violations. While some Palestinian captives are released, others, including children, are taken hostage. The violence only shifts form. It doesn't disappear. Let us be clear. This genocide did not begin October 7, nor in 1948. It's rooted in settler colonial strategies dating back to the 1800s, built on land theft, dispossession, and domination. More insidiously, it colonizes minds, normalizes hierarchies of suffering, and urging the world to look away. But we refuse to look away. We refuse to stop fighting. We refuse to be broken. That is why we are here. Who are we? This event is organized by the International Collective of the Palestine Mental Health Networks and Doctors Against Genocide. The Palestine Mental Health Networks is a coalition of mental health professionals from 26 countries dedicated to advocacy, activism, and education for Palestinian liberation. Doctors Against Genocide is a global movement advocating tirelessly for Palestinian freedom and supporting liberation efforts worldwide. Links to Doctors Against Genocide and the Collective of Palestine Mental Health Networks are being posted in the chat. We extend special thanks to our interpreters who are giving their time and expertise for the love of Palestine and its people. Their dedication ensures that our voices echo across languages. I would like to name the interpreters alphabetically by first name. Ahlam Hashisha, Andrea Jadu, Bilal Afes, Muna Nabil, Rabab, Raquel Duran, and Sonia Hashisha. My deepest gratitude also extends to Maysa Hawash, who just left the meeting. She's a key organizer and dedicated member of Doctors Against Genocide, and she made this happen. I want to also recognize the brilliant team from the Palestine Mental Health Network behind this event. Javiera Abu Fhele from the Chile Palestine Mental Health Network, Terry Bertucci from Chile Palestine and Scotland Palestine Mental Health Networks, and Sadia Hapiji from South Africa Palestine Mental Health Network. Before describing the program, I would like to introduce Dr. Karama Hawash Kwamerle, who will be speaking on behalf of Doctors Against Genocide and introducing this event. I first met Dr. Karama in February 2023 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, during a tour led by Dr. Yasser Abu Jama, who's the Director General of the Gaza Community Mental Health Program. That initial encounter with Karama remains vividly in my mind, not just because of the room where we met or the coffee we shared, but because of the profound sense of shared purpose that filled every moment. During the car ride back to my hotel, Karame offered a bike ride, which in Boston is very hard, very generous to do. I realized that I had found not just a colleague, but a kindred spirit whose unwavering commitment to the Palestinian struggle resonated deeply with me. Her integrity and creativity in finding tangible ways to serve our people left an indelible mark on my heart. It was life-changing to join the actions that Karama started, although it was brief. In her, it was on-the-ground work in Palestine, and Karama became a friend, a comrade, and a dear sister on this path. I must add that we are all here because of Karama's unwavering dedication. Without her tireless effort, this gathering would not exist. She remains steadfast mobilizer for Palestinian freedom, using professional expertise with activism to support those under siege. And Dr. Karama's bio is being posted in the chat. I'm realizing that the host might not have the things that need to be posted in the chat, so maybe we'll post them after. The mic is yours, Karama.
شكرا لما. Thank you. صباح الخير everybody. Good morning. I'm so impressed and so proud by the list of the people who are here. Thank you so much, Lama, for organizing this. We are all sick from genocide, and we are sick from seeing our people in Palestine. I'm a Palestinian. I'm from Nablus. I'm sick of seeing children being decimated by American paid bombs with American political coverage and complicity. I am sick of not being able to stop the killing from happening. And I'm sick from seeing our colleagues in Palestine being murdered, being incarcerated. And being detained without charges and being not allowed to practice the art of healing the way they should. I am the co-founder of Doctors Against Genocide. Dr. Nidal Jbour and myself are both Palestinians. We are also American citizens, and we went to medical school together, and we have lived under occupation for so many years. And because of that, we sharpened our sense of detecting injustice, and we felt that genocide is a medical problem above everything else because it devastates the health of the victims for generations to come. And that is why we founded Doctors Against Genocide, to mobilize the medical community, to make the medical community responsible for detection and prevention of genocide. When it happens, we introduce the medical definition of genocide, and you can find it on our website. And we have started several campaigns. One of them is the Sick from Genocide campaign. And we are so honored to have all of you here working together with Lama and with all of you and build this movement together with Palestine Global Mental Health, which is a formidable organization, and I'm so honored and proud to be here with you. So just to frame this, the being sick from genocide in the medical sense is really a medical presentation. People who experience the symptoms feel having trouble enjoying daily life activities, having a feeling of being heavy-hearted all the time, having trouble with sleep, having nightmares, having flashbacks, having the sensation of doom on daily basis, loss of concentration, even memory issues, and difficulties enjoying daily life. And we have seen this happen with so many people in the medical professional, medical students, people, lay people who are just witnessing what is happening without being able to do that. And the only way to have a cure from being sick from genocide is to organize and work together to end the genocide by advocacy, by pushing policymakers, by any mean possible for us that we can press on those who are responsible for doing that, doing the genocide and preventing it. So I am eager to listen from all of you. And it is my honor to meet all of you. And thank you for those who are attending with us. We are also having this streamed, so it is on YouTube, on LinkedIn. So there are many people who are watching us right now. And I will give it back to you, Lama, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Karame, for this, holding introduction, for reminding us that the solution is the end of this violence, not just the genocide, settler colonialism, the injustices all over the world. So I want to say for people who are listening, you can always post questions in the Q&A section. I hope you are able to see, Tere will now post in the chat a description of how to access the language you need, if you need Arabic, English, French. So Tere will post some things in the chat. She will also post the bio of, yeah?
Sorry, just that I'm not host yet, so I think
You are. She
needs
just
to
made you.
send it. I am? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, she just made you host, yeah. Okay, great. So, and Tere will also post the bio of Dr. Karame. Very grateful to Dr. Karame and her words. So I will describe now briefly the program. So, in this program, we will explore the psychological, emotional, and maybe physical impact of the genocide on all of us witnesses, how we are feeling. As I mentioned in the beginning, we might be feeling, many of us would ask, do I really deserve to complain? At least I'm not in Gaza, I have a roof over my head, etc. But witnessing this genocide really affects us on a very deep level. It's impossible to watch this and not be affected. We're affected emotionally, physically, and socially, and in our personal relationships. So it's very important to address so that we can remain steadfast on this path. So we're not broken, we're not, burnt out. So as I mentioned, we have speakers from all over the world, all experts from every continent. We have a speaker from every continent. And the speakers, other than the keynote speaker, the rest will appear in order of their country's alphabetic order. And it is my deep honor to introduce Youad Ghanardi. And Youad is a phenomenal speaker and writer and psychologist, psychotherapist. She's joining us from Palestine. I met Youad in 2019, and she has been a friend and comrade on the path of liberation since then. As we all know, this path, we need people with us. We need like-minded people who can uplift us, and we can uplift them. And carry this burden together with hope. The important thing is to have hope. And as long as we're on this path, we're not defeated, we're winners. A while ago, I asked Yuad, how do you survive? Like the humiliation on the checkpoints. How do you survive? And I want to quote what she said. She said, when I arrive home, meaning after she passes through a checkpoint, I brush off the dust from my shoes, clean the mud, smile, play music, and continue on with pride and determination. It always moves me so deeply, we just keep going. Yuad's spirit reminds us to stand tall and proud. She is known for her eloquence, speaking to both heart and mind, and will address us all in English briefly and then in Arabic, her mother tongue. The floor is yours, Yuad.
شكرا لما. Thank you all. Can you hear me?
Yes, Yuad, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for providing me with this platform to bring my people's word to you. During the second week of the war, when we all heard a call from an Israeli official who said لازم نمحيهن أحياء وتحويل غزة إلى موقف للسيارات، أطفال، رجال، نساء، جميعهم، لا أحد بريء في غزة. When we heard this official saying, we must wipe them all out alive and turn Gaza into a parking lot, children, men, women, all of them, no one is innocent in Gaza. With hundreds who were saluting this horrific call, it was beyond my capability back then to even imagine this might actually happen. And here are we, more than 500 days after the continuous attack on Palestine that the international bodies call genocide. We stand at a point where the world is normalizing ethnic cleansing as if Palestine is a case of real estate deal. Today, I believe it is not a one-time war, but actually it's becoming a culture of genocide. It became deeply rooted while the entire world was watching it happening on live streaming. We are meeting today to discuss the emotional toll of witnessing genocide and the power of unity. This genocide continues to take place as far as we speak, with a death toll expected to reach 100,000 Palestinians out of the 2 million living in Gaza, the biggest prison and the most crowded piece of land on earth. As a Palestinian woman, a psychoanalyst, and I believe as a decent human being, I believe this genocide is not an emotional manner to discuss, analyze, reflect upon theoretically, nor it is a crime against Palestinians only, but rather it's a systematic, well-planned crime against humanity. It aims at the erasing of the Palestinians as a nation, a culture, heritage, and language, and the erasure of what we all once shared as people. This genocide aims at erasing our world in L and as we know it, and our world without L, which means our narrations as humans. As a Palestinian refusing this erasure, I choose today to free at least my speech and to tell my people's story in their language. That's why I will resume my talk now in Arabic. I insist my language is here to stay, the Arabic language, and my people are here to remain. I'm grateful to all these amazing people that are sharing this platform with me today, and to the beautiful translators who are with us today, who volunteers to bring my people's word and narration and translate my talk. يحضرني سؤال مدى ملائمة عنوان اللقاء لي كفلسطيني مرضنا من مشاهدة الإبادة sick from witnessing genocide. فهل الفلسطيني شاهد؟ وهل هو مريض؟ هل فعلا مرضنا من مشاهدة الإبادة؟ إن الفلسطيني ليس شاهدا على الإبادة، بل إنه الذي يعيشها منذ ما يقارب 100 عام. محاولات مستمرة لإبادة الحضور الفلسطيني والفكر الفلسطيني والصوت الفلسطيني والحق الفلسطيني. ويعيش الفلسطيني وحشية لا نهائية منذ السنة والنصف الأخيرة، تسعى لإبادة الجسد الفلسطيني حياً أو ميتاً، وحتى لإبادة شهادات من بقوا. إبادة تسعى لمصادرة الإنسانية، ولمصادرة الصوت، ولمصادرة الحزن عن الفلسطيني، ولمصادرة القدرة حتى على التفكير النقدي لدى الشاهد الخارجي العالم. سعي مستمر للكتم، سعي ولد رغبة عظيمة بالبوح، فصار الفلسطيني بوصلة وأيقونة لحق الشعوب بالعيش كشعوب، ولحق الفلسطيني بالوجود. لا يلائمنا العنوان اليوم. أنا أتذكر مشهد العودة العظيم لمئات الآلاف من الغزيين بعد ساعات من إعلان وقف إطلاق النار، أطفال ونساء ورجال وشباب وشيب، كلهم فقراء، جميعهم جائعون، وقد ارتدوا أجمل ابتساماتهم وتزينوا بالضوء في عيونهم، يعودون في مسيرة مهيبة طريق الشاطئ إلى الشمال، شمال غزة الذي دمرته الآلية الوحشية. فيفوق هذا المشهد أبجديات التوصيف. إن غزة هي تكثيف رمزي للمخيم، مخيم اللاجئين أقصد، والمخيم هو حالة تكثيف للجوء الفلسطيني وللبلاد المنهوبة كلها. أما مشهد العودة إلى المكان المنشود فهو تكثيف للصحة وللصمود ولكل معاني الحرية التي ابتدعها الفلسطيني من جديد. هذا الفلسطيني الذي جاء إلى بلاده من أكثر أبوابها شرعية من رحم أمه، حمل بلاده في قلبه وبيته في وجدانه، وصار هذا الفلسطيني صار وعاد. وبينما تساءل ملايين المشاهدين أو الشاهدون في العالم إلى ماذا يعود هذا الفلسطيني؟ إلى خراب ودمار وركام؟ وكيف يعود؟ يجيء الجواب الفلسطيني بالمسير، والمسير واستمرار المسير. فالفلسطيني يرى ما لا يرى. يعود الفلسطيني إلى بيت يسكن قلبه حتى ولو هدموا جدرانه، وإلى وطن يعيش في عيونه يعود، ولو تقطعت أوصال هذا الوطن وصارت أشلاء كأشلاء أطفاله الذي أصر على تجميعها. يعود الفلسطيني قابضاً على اليقين إلى بلاده الذي يحب، إلى وطنه الذي له. إن هذا الفلسطيني الذي يحاول المحللون أحياناً نعته بتوصيفات بطولة كي يرتاحوا ويبرروا لأنفسهم التقاعس عن القيام بدورهم، أو نعته بالأسطورة لعدم قدرتهم على فهم العمق النفسي للإنسان الفلسطيني، لأنهم ينظرون من عدسات شوهتها الإبادة. هذا الفلسطيني لا يهمه كل تسميات العالم تلك، كما ولا تهمه توصيفات البطل والضحية. إن الفلسطيني هو إنسان عادي يشبهكم، له حبيبة وأخوات وأب يكدح، ولأخيه زوجة وأطفال. للفلسطيني أحلامه الوردية وأمنياته بمستقبل أفضل، له طموحاته وخيباته وهزائمه، كما وانتصاراته الصغيرة. هو يصحو مثلكم، يأكل ويشرب مثلكم، يذهب إلى المتجر مثلكم، ويلعب الشطرنج أو أوراق الشدة مثلكم، يخاف الامتحان وصوت الانفجارات مثلكم، يحب البحر والصيد وشروق الشمس، ويعد النجوم ليلا مثلكم، يقرأ الشعر ويقرأ الروايات، ويحب ويحزن ويشتاق ويتوجع مثلكم. الفلسطيني الذي مثلكم هو إنسان له حياة بكل تفاصيلها، مصمم على المسير وعلى العودة. ولا، ليس الفلسطيني شاهدا على الإبادة ولا مريضا منها، فهذا اختزال لماهية الفلسطيني وتسطيح لحضوره. الفلسطيني يعلم اليوم أنه بطريقة ما نجا، أما العالم وهو ليس شاهدا على إبادة فحسب، بل شريكا متورطا بها، فقد لا ينجو. العالم قد لا ينجو، ففي داخل كل بشري شريف في العالم سيتداعى جزء وسيمرض آخر. فهل سيختار العالم النجاة؟ وجودكم اليوم معي هنا هو محاولة للنجاة من قعر جحيم أرادوه مصيرا لنا. نحن الشعب الفلسطيني لنا إرث طويل من الصدمات، فمحاولات تجريدنا من العيش بكرامة ومن الموت بكرامة، وحتى تجريدنا من صفة الشاهد، ومحاولة نحتنا لنصير الضحية المثالية للجريمة الكاملة لن تفلح، لن تفلح. نحن الشعب الفلسطيني لنا أيضاً إرث عظيم وطويل من القدرة على الصمود وعلى التعافي أيضاً. نحن نشكل فسيفساء تحمل من معاني الحياة والحب والأمل والإصرار على المسير ما سيمكننا من النجاة. فاق وجع شعبي كل ألم، لكن شعبي الذي يعلم أن العالم قد يمرض وأن غزة هي كاشفة لهذا المرض لن يمرض. شعبي حي وليس مريض. أما أنا فلا أمتلك إلا إيماني الذي لن يتزعزع بأننا هنا لنبقى، وأن فلسطين حسمت أمرها منذ الأزل. فلسطين حسمت أمرها أن تعيش حرة. Thank you.
يعاد يسلم ألمك ويسلم تمك ويسلم قلبك وروحك. يعني كلامك is so moving والله، زي دايما كلامك مؤثر وبالضبط وين لازم يكون. أنا يعني هالقد ممنونة إنك إجيتي وأعطيتينا وقت من كل قلبي. حكت يعاد said many things that really moved me deeply. You know, the Palestinian voice نادرة شلهوب كبركيان, whose a prominent figure in our circles. Yuad and I are very close to Nadira, always reminds us Palestine is about love. You know, we Palestinians survive because we're about love. Nadira has a phrase which I often quote: love is a practice of freedom. You know, can remain on the path because love is a practice of freedom. So, and Yuad mentioned many things. You know, she reminded us that we may be sick from genocide, but the Palestinian people are not sick. The Palestinian people keep fighting. She described an image that I found so moving, that when the ceasefire was announced, we saw the children, the people, the men and women dancing in the streets, smiling, while also starving and terribly poor. You know, everything they had was destroyed and erased. She says, "شعبي حي وليس مريض." My people are alive and they're not sick. No, they're not sick. You know, Palestine, the Palestinian people throughout history have taught us so much. The Palestinian Sumud is almost a phenomenon we all admire and look up to. So thank you all for being here. I'm gonna pass the floor to Hafi to introduce Sasha.
Hi everyone, do you listen? Do you hear me?
I can hear you, we can hear you.
Okay. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Sasha Rombots. He holds a Bachelor in Psychology, First Class Honors, and PhD in Forensic Psychology. He's a clinical psychologist and the founder of Happy Minds, a private psychology practice in Brisbane, Australia. He specializes in working with children and families and is recognized as an expert in autism spectrum disorder. He has also worked in Uganda, training staff in addressing the mental health needs of refugees. Sacha created the Action Heroes to help bring the concepts of acceptance and commitment therapy to children, families, and schools. He hopes that the Action Heroes also go some way towards destigmatizing mental health issues in young people. After the events of October 7, Sasha pivoted his clinical work and has been conducting online training with mental health professionals in Lebanon. With two colleagues, he has also started a podcast, Resistance is Fertile, with the aim of raising consciousness around resistance to the people. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you. That's a great intro. Now I don't have to say all that stuff. I should say before I begin that I'm acknowledging that I'm presenting to you from the stolen land from the Turrbal and Jagera people that was never ceded to the British Empire. So the way I've structured this talk is I'm going to walk you through, I guess, the interplay between my internal world and the external world over the last, well, since October 7. And I realize it sort of matches up to the processes in therapy in a way, right? Because you've got awareness building, observational distancing, and then acting on your values. It just so happens that in October 2023, I was in New Zealand attending a conference. Now I feel bad saying the word heroism, attending a conference on everyday heroism. And at that conference, I met someone who was a genocide researcher. So I think, you know, and this all happened in October. So I think I was already primed to focus on heroism and genocide. Initially, I think I had a delayed reaction to everything that was going on. And I think that was because I was kept busy by what I've called the colonial demands, which are external, and then the colonial defenses, which are internal, which is, I guess, essentially internalized sort of propaganda that this is complicated. It's nothing to do with me. I'm powerless. What can I do? Then I think Israel's response and, you know, using words like human animals and the absolute destruction just led to feelings of disgust, fear for the Palestinians, and I think rage. And I think rage is probably my primary emotion that I've been experiencing and still the primary one. And I guess the rage increased every time I came across the first. So I remember the first UNRWA shelter that was bombed, or the first hospital that was besieged. And then my rage increased even more in response to the hypocrisy and gaslighting from Western societies, particularly given my colonial education about the Nazis. And, you know, the primary lesson I got from that was these people did this really bad thing and the rest of the world mobilized to stop it. So I describe this sort of experience as a type of sort of derealization, right? Because, and I think every morning I wake up and I just go, I can't believe that this is the world that I'm living in and that these are our governments and these are our societies. So flipping over to the external, then I started to like speedily educate myself about everything. So it was Al Jazeera and then YouTube, and I discovered Electronic Intifada and lots of other channels like that. And then I started, you know, using cognitive diffusion techniques. And I guess the easiest diffusion technique is the facts versus opinions, where you look at a story, you underline the facts and you circle the opinions. And I was doing that to help me defuse from all the propaganda and clarify to myself what the facts were. Again, externally, I'm part of a big international organization of all of the acceptance and commitment therapy people. Someone was brave enough, so Benji was brave enough to post on the public discussion board about Palestine and the genocide. And he got absolutely trashed by all of the Zionists within our organization. So I reached out to him with compassion and to let him know that I was feeling the same way that he was feeling. We then formed a Discord group with other people in the organization that were also feeling sort of disenchanted with that organization. And I guess there's still the disbelief that these people that trained me in all of this stuff are being manipulated by the very psychology that they trained me in, right? Flipping back now to the internal, I think the Discord group provided reality testing and helped us maintain our sanity. So we would touch base and just double check that we're not losing our minds because everything that we were presented with didn't match up to, the opinions didn't match up to the facts. All the while, I'm trying to do sort of, you know, normal colonial life where I'm going to work and I'm doing sessions with people about everyday sort of issues that they're experiencing. And then there's a part of me that in those sessions that's just thinking like, I can't believe that we're focusing on this. How are we not all stopping everything we're doing to try and stop this genocide? So I started trying to really connect with people and contact people. And I was reaching out to, you know, so I made contact with Lama. And it was sort of, I guess, surprisingly easy, which made me sort of feel a bit sort of sad in a way, because in the context of that big organization, I'm, you know, not an important person. So I couldn't help but get stuck with the thought of, imagine what those really important people could do that actually have reputation and power, etc. I also made contact, while I was waiting for Dr. Yasser to get in touch with me, I made contact with people from Lebanon. And the more contact I had with people from the Levant region, the more I was, I guess, impacted and changed and altered by the humanity. And I learned more about steadfastness, and I learned more about honor and dignity. And the feeling of having someone from that region appreciate that someone from my country could see everything that they could see was very humbling. So back to internally, I think the rage of injustice I turned into a bit of an energizing force. And I think lately I came across a phrase called revolutionary rage, right? So, and I would label that as revolutionary rage. Partly because I was also freeing myself from the other mechanisms in my society that are used to like dispel that rage, you know, and not act on that rage. So now, you know, I guess if I use the metaphor of a volcano, the volcano was dormant before October 7, and ironically, a flood awakened the steaming volcano. And now every day, every single crime that occurs is just sort of fuel for that volcano. In saying that, I'm also aware that I'm probably avoiding feelings of sadness at this point in time. Hopelessness. So as I started sort of exposing myself to more and more information and facts, and, you know, all of the resistance reports from the Electronic Intifada, you know, strangely enough, or maybe it does make sense to people, that I got a lot of hope from watching, you know, the resistance reports. I got hope from every speech that I saw from the Houthis, and the speeches from them just resonated so strongly with my own values. And, you know, when I was struggling to find a humanity in my own society, I found a humanity in the Levant region. As a side note, I also made sure, you know, in terms of managing my stuff while all this was happening, I made sure that I had boundaries. Clear boundaries between this is a time when I'm not going to think about this stuff. And I also made sure I had a lot of contact with the natural world. You know, every bird that I saw, every time I walked my dog, I really paid attention to what was happening in the natural world. Yes, thoughts showed up like, I'm walking down this street free and all this stuff is happening to the Palestinians, you know. But I sort of was able to try and put myself in the moment and to maintain that sort of sanity. So back to sort of externally, I then sort of started to speak out more because the more contact I had with people from the Levant, the more I was motivated, the more I had the urges to speak out when they felt that they couldn't speak out. And when I remember when I did my first post on the discussion board, I felt highly, highly anxious about doing that post, while also being aware that that was my ego, you know, my ego at play. So side note, I think whenever I'm in these spaces, I've noticed that my ego does not show up hardly at all. And I suspect that's part of, you know, becoming a comrade and maybe also part of steadfastness. And when I did speak out, I was also smashed by the Zionists and I was labeled as anti-Semitic and spreading hate speech. And at the time, I remember it really stung and I felt very slandered. I felt like whatever reputation I had was sort of being slandered. Whereas now, I think I appreciate having that label put on me because now it means that the people that I do care about know who to trust when that label's put on me. So in terms of like the consequences and the lessons that I've learned throughout all of this, firstly, sadly, I've lost nearly all respect for my professional organization. And I've been patient with them and I can be compassionate for the fact that they're propagandized. But by this point in time, if they're not doing anything about it, then, you know, they've sort of lost that respect. However, I've replaced colleagues with comrades, and now I've discovered what a comrade really is, right? And the bond of comrades feels very different to traditional friendship bonds that I've experienced in sort of Western society. So it's actually made me question a lot of like my own society here. Speaking out when others feel they cannot is hard and anxiety provoking. I guess I'm lucky because I don't have an employer. I work for myself, so I can speak out. But I can say that that has a stronger payoff than anything that the colony can offer me. Because as much as I got smashed on all of those public discussion boards, just getting one thank you from someone from Lebanon was enough to make it all worthwhile for me. And like we said at the start, I've now started a podcast, Resistance is Fertile, with Benji, who is my first comrade, and with Nunja, who is an awesome sort of Indigenous woman who sort of left America to go back to her homeland. And so that has the goal of, I guess, two goals: raising consciousness about propaganda and how the oppressors work, but also understanding, shining the light on the resistance and I should say the legally justified resistance, right? And hoping to sort of, you know, counteract all of that propaganda that we get fed. The other two things I'd say is becoming part of resisting, I think, is the psychologically healthy option to make in a psychologically unhealthy external reality. And I feel bad saying this, and I know Benji probably feels the same, but I feel more psychologically healthy now than I did before October 7. And I'll end with the commitment inspired by people like Dr. Jabor. And the commitment is that liberation is the precondition and nothing else is going to satisfy, and that I'm never going to let anyone forget what's happened. And I guess I'll end on that point.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for that. I think it was so powerful for you to link to the therapeutic processes in the way that you did. And I think so many of us can identify with these feelings of rage that you are talking about, as well as the need to kind of unlearn and then relearn so much of the history that we've been fed for all of these years. So thank you so much for those really deep reflections. I think it resonates very deeply with a lot of us. Thank you. There's some lovely comments for you in the question and answers, people just thanking you and appreciating all your commitment and your eloquence as a speaker. Thank you for that. Before I introduce the next speaker, I'm going to just pass on to Sonia to explain a little bit more about the language interpretation, because I think some of our participants are struggling a little bit with that. Sasha, over to you. Sorry, Sonia, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, we have stopped interpretation because you can hire us. No, Andrea, no interpretation. I'm back on. We are all back on the floor so we can explain to people how to use it. Apologies for the colleagues. So everyone, I'm not sure who's having difficulties. If you are using a mobile device, mobile phone, tablet, any of these devices, that could be the issue, because when you do choose the icon, you know, the little globe at the bottom, on a mobile device, after you select the language, you have to go click. I do believe that it is working for other people. One of our colleagues has joined as a guest. He's an attendee, and it is working for him. So if anybody has a problem, if you can describe it specifically, other than it's not working. I'm not sure if anyone can send another message or more details, because basically, if you're on a mobile device, just click done after you select the language. And it is currently not active because I have this activated, so I can come back to the floor to speak to you, ladies and gents. That's what the issue is. Otherwise, I will go back to interpretation and possibly activate my colleague, my friend Fauzi's microphone to follow. Fauzi, I am turning your microphone on so you can continue. I will go back to interpretation for you to explain how it's working. I do appreciate anything you can contribute. Merci, Fou. Let me reactivate, and then if you can do the explanation, Fauzi.
Yes, hi, this is Fauzi speaking. I hope you can hear me. This is one of the interpreters, but now joining as a participant. Normally, you should see an icon that says interpretation is available. Just click on it. Otherwise, you can go down below on your screen. There are 3 dots to the right. Click on the 3 dots. You will see 3 messages. The second one is interpretation with the photo globe. You can see the globe, then interpretation. Click on that one, and you will see the different languages that are available. So I repeat, if you can't find the interpretation icon, just go down. There are 3 dots to the right. You click on these 3 dots. You'll see in the middle the word interpretation. You click with the globe, the globe icon. Click on it, and you'll see the 4 languages available, which are English, French, Spanish, or Arabic. And there is the original audio at the top. You click on any of the languages. I hope that's clear now.
Thank you very much, Fauzi.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for that, Fauzi and Sonia. If anyone still has any problems, please just type in the Q&A, and one of the interpreters or myself or Javi will try and assist as best we can. And I do apologize that you are experiencing challenges with that. I'm going to move on now, introduce our next speaker, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Nelly Marzuka, who currently lives in Chile. Nelly has over 40 years experience as a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist. Nelly has pursued extensive training and specialization in crisis intervention, chronic pathologies, trauma, and post-traumatic stress. And she's particularly interested in intercultural contexts across Chile, United States, and Palestine. In 2014, Nelly was granted access to enter Gaza from Chile, but Zionist occupation denied her entry. So she remained in the West Bank, where she conducted psychological assessments and provided therapeutic support to children from Gaza who had suffered mutilations. She found that the remarkable resilience displayed by these children became a central focus for her work. Additionally, she made home visits to Palestinian families living in extreme economic, social, and psychological distress in various refugee camps in Bethlehem. Across generations, she observed a profound sense of resilience, affection, and hospitality, even amid the hardships of occupation and poverty. And this just speaks to what both Lama and Karama mentioned earlier about the love that Palestinians have. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce you now, Lama and Nelly, and hand over to you. Thank you.
Marhaba, hola, ¿se escucha?
Sí, sí se escucha.
¿Sí? ¿Se escucha? Ok. Bueno, yo voy a hablar en mi segundo idioma nativo, que es el español, el castellano, mejor dicho. Los derechos humanos nos atañen a todos, debido a su naturaleza política, jurídica, psicosocial, pero fundamentalmente a su naturaleza valórica y ética. Estos se insertan a su vez en defensa de un tejido social donde al prevalecer estos valores es posible un modo sano de convivencia y es allí donde se inserta el concepto de salud de lo sano. Aquello que atente contra el ser humano en su desarrollo lo rebaja, lo deshumaniza, lo relega a estados primarios y es un quebrantamiento al derecho a ser, a existir. Es por eso que yo quiero hacer un alcance. El estado patológico, psicopático, externo, es la ocupación. Frente a una situación limítrofe como esta, ¿no es cierto? Las reacciones que uno tenga creo que son normales a la etiología, ¿ya? Por lo tanto, lo que hay que eliminar es la causa de la teología, o sea, es la causa, es la teología. Y esto es la ocupación. Quiero hacer porque seríamos esquizofrénicos si no tuviéramos todas las reacciones que se ha descrito. Es por eso que mantengo sentimientos de impotencia al ver a la distancia a nuestras víctimas palestinas bombardeadas y masacradas bajo escombros por las fuerzas de ocupación nazi-sionista. El común ente artificial, gestado en 1948 por la piratería inglesa, en toda nuestra semita palestina histórica, como gendarme de los intereses imperialistas en Medio Oriente, se ha atrevido a este nivel de salvajismo y trato deshumanizado hacia un pueblo históricamente semita, amparado por países que son desde su formación colonialista y que a este factor de colonialismo y robo de los recursos de países nativos, ¿no es cierto?, han adquirido su poder y su dinero. Y este, desgraciadamente, ha sido el factor de mantención, de refuerzo positivo, como diríamos como psicólogos, que ha mantenido desde 77 años, desde 1948 hasta la actualidad, el holocausto del pueblo semita palestino, a mano de fuerzas militares extranjeras que no son semitas. Ellos provienen de una descendencia cázara europeo. La sintomatología observada en mi práctica clínica en varias personas y grupos de estudio son desvalimiento, temores, somatizaciones, pérdida de peso, insomnio, irritabilidad, algunas personas con apoyo farmacológico, así como licencias médicas, pesadillas, flashback, estrategias de evitación, pensamientos negativos, congelación y desconexión. El abordaje psicológico en un simplismo, ¿no? Sería prácticas de relajación, lectura, más información y comprensión de cada suceso, actividades culturales, un mayor activismo, cultivar aún en mayor calidad y cantidad los afectos familiares, amistades y volver con esto a nuestra regulación emocional previa para posteriormente poder procesar el trauma desde una concepción no médica tradicional, sino que de carácter psicosocial, comunitario. El apoyo a la resistencia contra esta colonización en todas sus formas y estrategias. Por ejemplo, yo veía una mujer palestina que decía, Ana Balbis el top, yo visto mi vestimenta, mi vestido. Eso es resistencia. Nuestra comida, nuestra cocina palestina, que el sionismo ha usurpado también, diciendo que ahora las hojas de parra, el warek dawali, son de su procedencia. Todo entonces es resistencia.
Nelly,
¿Sí? ¿Voy
disculpa
muy
que te
rápido?
interrumpa. No,
¿Sí?
¿es posible que tú modifiques tu fondo para que no aparezca negro tu rostro?
Sí, pues eso, ¿cómo
Eh,
lo puedo hacer? A ver.
Veo donde dice más, tres puntitos.
Sí, ahí estoy. ¿Pizarra?
Perdón.
Sale grabar, pizarra, restablecer a valor predeterminado.
La más,
Your background must be blurred. Did you choose blur background? That's the issue. If you take out the blur background,
tu fondo. ¿Cómo indicar a dónde ir para sacar el fondo? Si alguien puede, por favor.
Y para no perder
Nelly,
tiempo.
Nelly,
La
creo que
configuración.
abajo en el video, donde tienes el icono del video en la esquina inferior izquierda,
¿Ya?
tienes que apretar la flecha y
Donde
si
dice
tienes,
copilot. ¿Copilot?
No,
no, en
ajustar
video,
fondo y efectos. Donde está el icono de video, al lado izquierdo abajo del zoom,
¿Sí?
está el icono de video y hay una flecha hacia arriba. Si haces clic en la flecha, debería estar la opción de ajustar fondo y efectos.
Aquí, bueno, ya. No, no lo veo.
Ya. Porque
I
tú tienes
think
la
it's
opción de
okay,
apagar
no?
tu micrófono,
You
¿sí
know,
o no? Ok.
Sí, el audio y el video, ¿sí?
Ya, ahí al lado del video hay una flecha
Ah,
hacia arriba.
perfecto. Ajustar
Ya,
fondo.
ahí,
Sí,
eso. Listo.
ya. Sí, ahí aparece.
Y ahí pones que no haya ningún fondo. Fondos virtuales, ninguno. Si no, seguimos nomás para...
Para no
No.
perder tiempo. No. Sí, puse no. Ahí, pero a ver, estoy bien chica.
Perfecto, ahí
¿Sí?
sí. Sigue
Ya,
nomás, Nelly, súper.
ya, ok. Perdona. Ya. Yo tengo un PowerPoint. Voy a ver si, pero no quiero que perdamos tiempo. ¿Dónde tengo que pinchar para en compartir?
Sí, compartir.
sí, Nelly.
La flecha verde al medio de la pantalla del Zoom, ¿te parece?
Ahí no sé si lo ven.
No, no todavía.
compartir, a ver.
Nelly, ¿será que podemos tal vez
No,
seguir sin el
vamos a
PowerPoint?
seguir nomás, sí, sin
Ya.
el... Ya, ya, seguimos. Bueno, yo iba a poner en un PowerPoint, pero como no se puede y hemos perdido ya 3 minutos, es sobre la vivencia y experiencia personal que tuve en una misión médica psicológica a Gaza, Palestina, el año 2014, en donde fueron asesinadas 2.200 personas en un año. Bueno, al llegar a Palestina retorné a mi país de nacimiento, al cual dejé junto a mi familia al año de edad, y tuve sentimientos desde un principio y siempre de pertenencia. Siempre sentí que estuve ahí, me era sumamente familiar, desde mi idioma, lenguaje, comida, paisaje, idiosincrasia, hogar, el aroma. Lo más impactante fue ver directamente y en persona el muro de la parte militar israelí, los asentamientos ilegales israelíes en territorios palestinos que alojan a inmigrantes venidos de todas partes del mundo y que son construcciones toscas, burdas, que rompen el habitual y cálido paisaje de nuestra Palestina histórica o del 48 por el terrorismo israelí. Se levantaron edificios sin ninguna coherencia con nuestra cálida geografía palestina. La existencia de checkpoints en los cuales diariamente es discriminada y vejada la población nativa palestina. En resumen, humana y psicológicamente, ver y escuchar, presenciar y sentir esta ocupación militar extranjera a través de todo lo anterior, más la ausencia total de respeto a la vida humana, la inexistencia de derechos humanos para el nativo semita pueblo palestino. O sea, ya cuando dicen se violan derechos, la verdad que no hay derechos, más allá de que se violen. Psicológicamente, lo que más me impactó, pese a todo este sufrimiento, es la capacidad de resiliencia de la población palestina. El problema central radica en esta catástrofe o desastre, el Nakbe, que ha sido causada por el mismo hombre, no por fuerzas de la naturaleza, debido a una permanente ocupación militar extranjera y en la destrucción deliberada e intencional de cada una y todas las instancias psicológicas de la familia, así como de sus estructuras, generando de esta forma el estrés agudo, promoviendo y manteniendo un estrés postraumático permanente debido a la frecuencia diaria, cotidiana, crónica que ejerce la brutal y sanguinaria maquinaria militar israelí. La ausencia de posibilidades de una vida cotidiana normal para un pueblo civil indefenso versus la presencia de toda una sociedad militarizada, agresiva y violenta, así como un ejército extranjero poderoso, provocador y armado hasta los dientes que asesina impunemente civiles, fundamentalmente niños y mujeres, obedeciendo su estrategia y plan de limpieza étnica, que no puede continuar. La violencia e impunidad de la ocupación sionista debe finalizar. En Aida, el ejército de ocupación diariamente irrumpe en el campo de refugiados y que se supone que es territorio palestino ocupado, e ingresa agrediendo, lanzando gases lacrimógenos, provocando arrestos temerarios, asesinato de menores del campamento, en su política de amedrentamiento y limpieza étnica. No deben ni pueden continuar viviendo en campamentos refugiados superpoblados, con insuficiencia de suministros de agua y electricidad, inexistencia de servicios públicos, recursos inexistentes para el mantenimiento del medio ambiente, higiene y, y salud, así como recursos, escasos recursos para la educación, mientras se avala y alienta la inmigración masiva de extranjeros. Los niños palestinos no deben ni pueden continuar viviendo cotidianamente en un contexto de semejante anormalidad, de violencia, de ocupación militar, de situación límite, transformando todas estas vivencias diarias como si fueran un modo normal de interacción y vinculación humana herencia del sionismo. Y lo que tenemos que tener siempre presente es que todos estos campos de refugiados son personas originarias de Jaffa y Haifa, ciudades palestinas. Teniendo una previa aprobación de ingreso a Gaza desde Chile, en terreno las autoridades de la ocupación israelí me prohibieron el ingreso. Por lo tanto, tuve que quedarme en el llamado West Bank o Cisjordania. Ahí pude diagnosticar y medir determinados aspectos en base a test psicológicos y atender a niños mutilados provenientes de Gaza en el Hospital de Rehabilitación de Bet Yala, y lo que primordialmente, y repito, es su inigualable capacidad y de desarrollo del concepto denominado resiliencia. Además de los niños de Gaza, realizamos visitas domiciliarias a familias palestinas en estado de extrema vulnerabilidad económica, social y psicosocial. Acudí a 2 campos de refugiados de Heisha y Aida en Bethlehem, donde también se destaca la resiliencia en niños, jóvenes y adultos. A pesar de sus secuelas, de las condiciones miserables de pobreza de su vida cotidiana, nunca vi perdido el sentido de afecto y hospitalidad en las familias, ofreciendo aquello mismo de lo cual ellos carecían: alimentos y el típico shai y kahwa. Por un lado, por esta capacidad de resiliencia veo esperanzas y tengo fe en mi pueblo, tanto dentro como en la diáspora. Acorde a la literatura y concordando con mi experiencia en terreno, la familia se constituye como el principal factor de esta capacidad del ser humano, junto con la religión. La resiliencia que primordialmente observé en los palestinos adeptos a religión musulmana fue increíble. Y recordé lo que mi abuela, Sipti, siempre me decía: ellos se aferran mucho más que nosotros los cristianos a la religión y creen en Dios mucho más que cualquier cristiano en el mundo. Por lo tanto, yo veo que una de las salidas es la firme presión internacional a través del boicot, desinversiones, sanciones, con el objetivo de establecer límites, y un tardío rayado de cancha a una entidad atropelladora de los derechos humanos más elementales de todo y cualquier ser humano, y que el pueblo palestino no tiene esos derechos humanos. Para que finalmente nosotros podremos elaborar y procesar duelos, pérdidas, a través de un proceso de reconciliación, pero donde es necesario que previamente se produzca un reconocimiento, así como una petición de perdón de todos los hechos cometidos en contra del semita pueblo palestino, tal como sucede hasta el día de hoy con el nazismo. Y al igual que una compensación, sobre todo moral, con el retorno de los refugiados palestinos a sus hogares en un solo Estado laico y democrático, como se produjo en Sudáfrica y como es lógico. La posibilidad de los 2 estados, desgraciadamente, es imposible debido al incumplimiento de cada una y todas las resoluciones de la ONU, organismo que hasta ahora actúa como beneficencia, cuando lo que exigimos es la restauración y evolución de nuestra ancestral tierra. Nosotros no necesitamos limosna, necesitamos que se nos restituyan nuestros derechos, así como el derecho internacional por parte del ente terrorista desde su artificial creación en 1948. Deberá ser un solo Estado palestino, laico y verdaderamente democrático, tal como antes de la invasión militar extranjera en toda nuestra semita palestina histórica antes de 1948. Aquellos que deseen quedarse dentro de Estado palestino laico, ahlan wa sahlan. Termino acá.
Muchas gracias, Nelly, por tu testimonio tan poderoso y por siempre prestar tu testimonio. O sea, esto ha sido trabajo para ti de toda la vida. Y gracias por el trabajo que haces en Chile y has hecho en Palestina, y además por nombrar esa gran diferencia en los derechos de la diáspora palestina también, que no tienen derecho a volver, mientras personas que nunca han estado en el territorio tienen todos los derechos legales a estar ahí. Eh, Y destaco también de lo conmovedor de, no sé, rescatar la resiliencia o este sumud palestino y ese mantener el valor siempre de la familia y de la unidad y de la comunidad y la fe, eh, y por usar el lenguaje que hay que usar, como siempre nombrar las cosas por su nombre, y el destacar que la única forma de recuperarse de estos años y años de violencia terrible es el fin al apartheid, al genocidio, a la ocupación. Así que muchas gracias.
Gracias a ustedes por la invitación.
Voy a cambiar a inglés. I'm going to change to English to introduce the next speaker. So next we have Emi Sulaifa. She's an academic in psychology who was born and grew up in Yogyakarta in Indonesia. She spent some years in the US for her graduate studies and in Germany for her doctoral dissertation. And now Emi is chairing a Center for Islamic Psychology Studies in Universitas Islam Indonesia, and is the representative of International Association of Muslim Psychologists from Indonesia. Palestine is dear to her, just as it is dear to most Indonesians. It's a blessed land with beautiful culture and kind-hearted people living in it. And her visit to Palestine in 2022 taught her what an occupation looked like. So welcome, Emi. Thank you for being here. And I'll leave the floor to you. If you can turn on your camera. Do we have any? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm turning the camera on and I'm turning the microphone on. I wonder if you can hear me.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Good. Okay. Tonight I will not be talking about much about my emotional experience, because really similar to what other speakers have told us. But this is something to share about we Indonesian, how we Indonesians see what happened in Palestine. And you know that there is this unique connection between us, Indonesia, and Palestine. So let me begin with that. Okay, as it was introduced, my name is Emi Zulaifa, and I'm from Universitas Islam Indonesia at the Department of Psychology. It's an honor for me to be given this opportunity to share my reflection on the very difficult and dire humanitarian situation that our brothers and sisters are facing now in Palestine, especially in Gaza. To Indonesia, Palestine is, if you think of a family, Palestine is like a brother. It was Palestine that first recognized our independence from the Dutch colonization in 1945. It was a freedom from over 300 years of colonization, putting the indigenous people of Indonesia as the third-class citizen in colonial law on their own land. So to Indonesian, we have big hope that someday, like us, Palestine will achieve its freedom, inshallah. Indonesia was then declared as a sovereign state, and Palestine was the brother that support the newborn nation. Now that Palestine is under occupation, we felt like it is us who are also being oppressed, and that it cannot be justified. Occupation is occupation, and there is no better description that can be given to make it sound that this sounds right. It's occupation. The fact that this occupation is not just making the occupied people submit to the will of the occupier makes us ponder even more. We witness that they are also intentionally committing genocide on the Palestinian people. This fact sends us a sense of horror and realizing that there is a group of people, the Zionists, who believe that their existence require the extermination of the rightful inhabitants of land. What are their mistakes? That they must become the objects of their aggression. Is it being colonized and resisted? There's a group of people believing that they are the chosen people in this world, then they have every right to do whatever they like toward others. Some kind of narcissism, but this is deeply ingrained, collective, and deadly dangerous. It could command them to kill, steal land, torture, expel, and to eradicate other people. In this kind of belief, these people want the whole world to cry for them for their pain and to always let them do anything because they have been victim and their past cannot be forgiven, even when it means creating great sufferings for others. Yet these others are the ones who helped, supported, and empathized in the beginning and healed their pains. We witness a kind heart being cruelly betrayed. Out of the shock and outrage, I could see that it was not just me who feel disturbed with things that go on. I mean, me among the Indonesian. People ask, don't these people know the word enough is enough? Don't they feel pain to see others in pain? Have they lost their sense of being human? Even little children in Indonesia know that there is boycott, and they stop buying products that apparently help the genocide machine works. Children as little as kindergarten age, first graders, they know that all this cannot be justified. Their anger from about freedom and peace. And under my supervision, she wants to participate in boycott. Is it out of compassion or out of anger? We found out to have
I think we lost Emmy. Emmy, are you there? Oh, sorry, Emmy, your microphone is turned off.
Okay, maybe I need to turn the video off so the connection could go better, if it's okay.
Maybe it's if it's okay. I mean, it sounds good now, but yeah, you lost the sound. Sorry for a minute. Okay.
I will continue. I will continue. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
One college student who happened to be under my supervision for her final year research asked me if a research on boycott of Israeli product would be good. She wants to know what drives them to participate in boycott. Is it out of compassion or out of anger? We found out after surveying more than 200 boycott participants that both play roles in their boycott commitment. We examined and saw that anger show stronger role in boycott participation. Yes, it's anger. But we agree, our anger is morally justified. It's moral outrage. Now the time comes, some people who think that they are from a better race and believe in their supremacy scream that they should rule and take over the living place of people in Gaza. We tell them now, Gazans, Palestinians are the rightful population who can decide for the future of their life in their rightful homeland. So definitely it's displacement, no more. I do hope that leaders of the world, leaders of the nearby countries in Palestine could agree with that. Our hearts have always been with the Palestinian, just like Taufik Ismail, one Indonesian poet, wrote this poem, and I'll try to read it for us at the closing of my speech for the symposium. The title is Palestine, How Could I Forget You? When your homes are demolished by bulldozers with a thunderous roll, it is as if the sand and bricks of my bedroom wall are scattered in my yard, oozing red sweat and blowing bloody dust. When your orange groves and apple trees are folded up like a handkerchief, then filed away in a Tel Aviv office, it's as if our coconut and mango trees in the equator have been sheathed. When the first Qibla is attacked and their footsteps trample on our foreheads, like reptilian behavior underground, and soldiers' boots tread on our skulls. It is as if the wooden floor of the surah where I learned to read the Quran 40 years ago had collapsed, and beneath it, the fish pond with crystal clear mountain water now flows with my tears. Palestine, how could I forget you? When Gaza children barely in their teens respond to gunfire with mere stone throwing, only to have their wrists and arms broken, who wouldn't scream? It's as if our own Indonesian children are being abused. But behold, their broken young bones will heal and stretch out to form a long chain that will strangle their enemies, drag their oppressors to hell. When I listen to poems by Fatwa Tuqan, Samir Al-Qasem, Harun Hashim Rasid, Jabra Ibrahim, Nizar Kobani, and others at the Jakarta Arts Center, our hearts beat twice as fast, then pierced by the wall of your suffering. Our blood burst out, inscribing calligraphic lines, Allahu Akbar, and free Palestine. When nameless factories produce 1,000 tons of lies per week, spreading them through print and electronic media, burning refugee tents in the desert, defying honorable resolution worldwide, massacring in God knows how many places, stalking leaders and your freedom fighters, I cry out to imams worldwide, pray collectively with all your might for every fighter on his path. For those shot and imprisoned, let us proclaim loudly, there is no power except with Allah. Palestine, how could I forget you? My land is far, our land is far. Thousands of kilometers separates us, that the azan from Al-Aqsa Masjid resonates in my ears, in our ears, here in Indonesia. Thank you very much. Those are all I could convey in the symposium tonight, and thank you for everybody who has given me the opportunity to share what we feel and what we think and how we see us, Indonesian and Palestinian. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Emmy, for these moving words. So powerful to be connected so far away. Here is 12:30 in Chile. It's very moving. Thank you so much.
You're most
Now,
welcome. With all our heart.
So now it's my great honor to introduce you to the next panelist. She's Sohra Suleiman, co-founder of the Gift of the Givers Foundation, GOTG, and the director of the GOTG Care Line Counseling Service, now in its 28th year servicing individuals, couples, families, and the community, including children and adults. Sohra is a counseling psychologist and her focus area is general counseling issues, trauma counseling, couples counseling, and community psychology. She works collaboratively with organizations that advocate and advance issues concerning women and children. Zohra lives with her family in Pietermaritzburg, KwaZulu-Natal, one of 9 provinces in South Africa. She is based at the head office of the Gift of the Givers Foundation. Please welcome Zohra Suliman.
Salams and greetings, everybody. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can, Zohra.
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Thank you to be with this lovely panel, hearing from each other's experiences and being in this community, feeling quite safely held together. As I was introduced, I'm Zohra Suliman from South Africa, the country that became notoriously famous when we took Israel to the ICJ. And our country at the southernmost tip of the African continent was the voice that we hope would reset the moral compass of the world. At our very essence, we identify strongly with the Palestinians, having fought against apartheid ourselves. Our revered leader and the first democratically elected president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, stated that South Africa will only be free when Palestine is free. So to our brothers and sisters here from South Africa, we are with you and we are behind you, to all our brothers and sisters in Palestine. And to this whole community, that we all are fighting together for a noble cause. When the war broke out on 7th October, I thought that this was just another one of those wars. Give it 30 days, 50 days, and it will be all over. And working from an NGO, I know this because we've had offices in Gaza from 2014, and our first intervention was there in 2009. So I just thought it was one of those short wars again. But when I heard that Hamas got through paragliding and broke through the wall to enter the kibbutz, and the IDF were caught sleeping and missed this one, I knew all hell will break loose. Zionist Israel, with its fragile ego, does not take insult well and will go ballistic. But still, this did not prepare me for what was going to unfold as the days were passing. I still clung to the belief that we lived in a world where human life mattered, where civilizations had advanced beyond the horrors of past wars and genocide. I believe that the world, with its technological breakthroughs and global network, had become a small place, interconnected, aware, and civilized, too civilized, to allow the systematic slaughter of an entire people, an entire civilization. But I was wrong, horribly and painfully wrong. I was stuck to my phone, devouring every video and reel that came out of Gaza. From morning till night, live streaming to a war as it's happening in real time. I didn't feel normal. I watched as children were ripped from their parents, as people were escaping their houses that were crumbling behind them. Those who did not make it out were under the rubble of their not so long ago homes. I watched mothers wail, fathers dig through the dust with bloodied hands, searching for their loved ones. One could see limbs, a doll, a toy car, a car, people's belongings sticking out under the pile of concrete. The shell-shocked look on little ones' faces. Al-Ahli Hospital bombed, when just yesterday there were sounds of jubilation from children singing there. then Al-Shifa, then the European hospital, then the Indonesian hospital, and then I lost count. Places meant to heal turned into graves and later into mass graves. Schools reduced to ashes, universities erased from existence as if knowledge itself was the enemy. Mosques and churches crumbled, silencing the echoes of prayers that once filled them. Heritage, history, identity, systematically annihilated. Each day, the horror deepened. The report spoke of starvation as a weapon, of water supplies being cut, of aid trucks bombed before they could reach desperate mouths, and worst of all, the dehumanization. Leaders, soldiers, entire institutions calling an entire people human animals, justifying their annihilation. This was not war. This was extermination. Inside, I felt an unrelenting storm of emotions, rage, helplessness, grief that settled deep in my bones. My heart beat with guilt for every meal I ate, every sip of water I drank, every night I slept in safety, and every gaze of my grandchildren as they played innocently. My thoughts became consumed with images I wished I could unsee and with voices I could not silence. I wondered if I too was complicit. Was my voice loud enough? Was my outrage enough? Could I do more? The world moved on. People debated the worth of Palestinian lives in cold, calculated rhetoric. Journalists and doctors, those who bore witness and who saved lives, became targets. The truth itself became a casualty. The silence of those who had the power to stop it felt like a betrayal deeper than words could express. Outside, my world felt surreal, as if existing in a parallel reality. How could I sit in meetings, plan my day, knowing that at that very moment, entire families were being wiped out? At night, I'd stare at the sky above and see the beauty of the moon and the stars. And I'd think, this very same sky, stars, and moon are witness to the horror and the suffering of Palestinians from its vantage point over Gaza. And as an NGO, the gift of the givers, operating inside Gaza, we have offices, clinics, and schools there. The work continued under perilous conditions. Such was the dedication of our staff members, who lost over 200 members of their own families. We lost our main coordinator when he was targeted one morning as he left the mosque after dawn prayers, and eventually all our structures were also bombed and destroyed to rubble and ash. I felt angry, guilty, helpless, that I'm not doing enough. Watching the scenes every day, I saw no anger or vengeance from the people of Palestine. All they said, Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. Almighty is sufficient for us. He is the disposer of our affairs. Feeling let down by humans who had the power to do something, yet supported each other, justifying their actions, where even the blind could see that this was a genocide, an extermination of a whole nation. It was these chants that gave me hope and shook me out of my depression, that galvanized me into action. I saw the trauma, the grief, the horror at a scale that was humanly incomprehensible. As a psychologist, I felt inadequately trained or experienced to work with this. I gathered psychologists, psychiatrists, and registered counselors, and we started to research trauma-informed practices, trained in them, so that when the call came, we'd be ready to support in whichever way we could. This group became a source of comfort, motivation, and a holding space for each other. And mostly, it gave us hope. This progressed into an initiative called the Care of the Carers, where Dr. Rawia Hammam and Dr. Yasser Abu Jamai had contacted our, Sadia and a few of us on this network here as well, requesting that South African clinicians support clinicians in Gaza in the form of regular check-in, solidarity, connection, mentorship, and skills exchange, just so that they don't feel cut off and isolated from the rest of the world. Mainly, we take our cues from them, we take our guidance from them, and only they know how to approach this. So we take our cues from them with absolute respect, humility, and dignity, understanding that they know what's best for them. Psychologically, this experience has left deep scars. The weight of witnessing such atrocity firsthand made me question my capacity to heal, to help, to process the enormity of the suffering. And the concept of vicarious trauma became my daily reality as the despair of others seeped into my own psyche. And as I thought of Dr. Rawia, Dr. Jamai, Inas, and all of the people who were still doing the work as the war was ongoing. This helplessness morphed into moral injury, knowing what is right, yet feeling powerless against the machinery of destruction. Yet through this darkness, I also found resilience, not just in myself, but in those I aimed to support. The steadfastness of the Palestinian people, their unwavering faith amidst devastation, was a lesson in the power of human spirit, where I learned the word sumud, that even in English, it cannot capture the full essence of what it means. It reminded me that healing is not about erasing pain, but about bearing witness, about ensuring that suffering is not forgotten and that voices are not silenced. I carried this grief in my body, in my breath. It changed me. How could it not? How do you witness genocide and remain the same? I'd like to end by saying, I will not look away. Their voices, their suffering, their resistance etched in my soul. And as long as I live, I will make sure that history remember that truth is told, that justice is demanded, because silence is complicity, and I refuse to be silent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zora, for that very passionate and capturing account of the horror that we all experienced since the start of this genocide, and also how we've had to find hope in small spaces and how we've had to mobilize to make sure that we are doing something and we are actively engaging in this and not forgetting. But I think what stands out for me as well is the important lesson that you have in terms of always acting with the knowledge that we don't know, and that the people on the ground know more what they need, and listening to them about what we need to do and what we should be doing. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that insights and also all the amazing work that Gift of the Givers is doing. Thank you. I'm now going to move on. I know everyone that we are very behind schedule, so we are going to try and speed up and cut out all our chatter. But I want to give Michaela a platform and give her time to share with us her experiences. So I'm going to briefly introduce Michaela and hand over to her. Michaela Lindstrom lives in Sweden and has been working as a clinical psychologist since 2012. She specializes in trauma treatment, primarily supporting torture survivors and individuals who have worked in Sweden as refugees. She is a founding member of the Sweden Palestine Network and an active member of Psychologists for Palestine, a national network advocating for Palestinian rights in mental health. Michaela, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's I don't know, feels strange to say it's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor, perhaps. It's good to be able to share this space with you. So thank you for inviting me to this panel. And I would like to share with you some aspects of how the ongoing genocide has affected my work and talk to you about how genocide shows up in the therapy room. But let me first invite you to reflect with me on how it doesn't show up. Until very recently, I worked as a clinical psychologist at a psychiatric outpatient clinic here in Stockholm in Sweden, a clinic that had a specific assignment to work with refugees with stress and trauma-related issues. When the war against Ukraine started in February 2022, we started to get referrals for people whose trauma-related symptoms were triggered or worsened by news of the war. The vast majority of these referrals were not for people directly affected by the war, but rather people with experiences of war who had had their own painful memories awoken. And the war in Ukraine was explicitly mentioned in these referrals as a triggering factor. And of course, our existing clients at the clinic were also affected in various degrees and ways, just as expected. At this time, I was also tasked to write guidelines on trauma-informed care to distribute to the whole company that has many clinics across the country, including primary health care and other somatic specializations. And also to have a weekly time spot for phone consultations for colleagues who might need support handling patients affected by the war or others affected by the war as well. And I think that was a great initiative and I was more than willing to do it. But, and this is my point, none of this was deemed necessary or even worthy of discussion related to the genocide in Gaza and in Palestine. So when the genocide in Palestine started, I soon noticed that no referrals explicitly mentioned this or even mentioned the so-called situation in the Middle East as a triggering event or a reason for amplified symptoms, even though our patient population would be expected to be very much affected. Over 15 months later, and I have still not seen a single referral that explicitly stated that the genocide against the Palestinian people had caused or triggered symptoms of stress or traumatization. I was surprised and not the least surprised at the same time. It tells of a far too familiar story. The story about what kind of suffering is visible and acceptable, who gets their pain acknowledged, and mainly, I think, what is legible as cause for suffering for many professionals in Swedish healthcare. Our clients, new and old, were of course still affected directly and indirectly, and talked to us about their pain, their fear, and their worry. Many also talked about the feeling of being invisible, carrying a burden that was never recognized, never asked about, never acknowledged. as if it didn't exist. Oftentimes, the genocide showed up in my therapy room by all the ways it was not allowed to show up outside of it. People talking about being silenced or punished for speaking up. And talking about the total disregard from workplaces and schools, and about the healthcare system refusing to acknowledge the profound impact on people from this genocide. Many also talk to me about their resistance and their creative self-care. And I want to share with you the story of a young man who I worked with in therapy for a couple of years. A young man marginalized by society in a great number of ways. He told me about his frustration and the helplessness he felt. He felt especially powerless facing the cold silence from the Swedish government about genocide. And not knowing what else to do, he told me that he had started to go to the Parliament building every Friday, leaving big pieces of watermelon at the entrance. It is all I can do, he said. But I want to remind them that Palestinians exist. And in all, it has been like living in parallel worlds. One world where a genocide is happening, and I deal best I can with my own reactions, with my heavy heart and my rage, and at the same time showing up as a therapist for my clients. And another world where we are supposed to act as if everything is perfectly normal, and where reacting or even acknowledging the genocide is seen as somehow disturbing the order. Navigating these parallel worlds is still a challenge, and in a way, having a therapy room where these things could be named and spoken about has helped me keeping somewhat sane too. A remarkable thing about being a psychologist is that you get to witness what is unbending and unbreakable in the human spirit, often in the midst of darkness. And I have learned invaluable lessons about dignity and resistance from my clients over the years. For this, I will be forever grateful, and I wish I had the words to do all of them justice. But I realize that is not possible, at least definitely not in 10 minutes. However, by being reminded of those lessons, I can ground myself in my core values. I find that returning to them, however obvious they may seem, do help me to resist the silence, the gaslighting, and the reality bending that we are constantly subjected to in our professional spaces. Being able to have and to co-create spaces of a different kind, both private and professional, has been and still is vital to me. If I were to give any advice on how to endure witnessing a genocide, it would be to create spaces for mutual support, spaces where we can breathe and think and feel together. And from those spaces, to act in solidarity in whatever way we can. Thank you.
Michaela, thank you very much, Michaela. You know, you're very dear to me, and your words move me so deeply. It resonates, I think, with many of us, you know, your commitment, your love, and you do so much. I mean, you didn't mention all the things you do for Palestine, and having you in the consortium of Palestine Mental Health Networks is extremely important. Thank you for being here and all the work you do. So thanks to everyone who filled the surveys. If you had seen it, we will post it in the chat now. So there's still time to post, to answer. Our dear Tere Bertucci, a comrade, a friend, and someone I admire greatly, was also one of the fabulous organizers of this symposium, will give us a summary of the results of the survey. The survey addresses the symptoms we face, how has the genocide affected us all, and it was done with Sadia, Hafiji, who will also post the bio of Tere in the chat. And Tere, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lama. And I won't extend too much in saying this, but again, thank you everybody for all the powerful, all your powerful testimonies. So I'm just going to share the PowerPoint. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
We can see it, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I'm just wondering if because I'm using another view for myself, but you can still see the presentation, right?
Correct. Yes, Tere,
okay.
we can.
Thank you. Okay, great. So as Lama said, well, hi, I'm Tere. I'm just going to share some preliminary data of the survey, one of the surveys that we created with the Palestine Global, South Africa, and Chile Palestine Mental Health Network. This survey is based on the what Doctors Against Genocide has posted about sick from genocide and also common symptoms from vicarious or secondary trauma. There were some people asking about the list of symptoms. Just as clarification, sick from genocide is not a diagnosis, and it's just a way. It's not a way of putting, the responsibility and the illness in the individual. So that's why it's not a diagnosis, and there's not a list of symptoms. It's more about bringing awareness to the violence, to what this violence generates in everybody around the world. So I'm just going to share a little bit, and I'll try to speed through because we don't have much time to speed through some of the parts. But if anybody wants the PowerPoint or the PDF, Sadia will post my email and you can write me and ask for it, okay? So the aim of the survey is, as you see there, to examine the impact of the genocide in Palestine on the mental health and overall well-being of people who are witnessing the events, so in direct exposure. Again, this is not to put ourselves at the center. We know that we are not in the epicenter of receiving, the direct violence, but it's as a way of, and I'll share in the reflections at the end, as a way of showing how big is the scope of the effect of this violence that not only affects people who are in the Palestinian territory, but people who are witnessing it, people in the diaspora as well. Here are some details of the methods used to collect data. We shared a survey through Google Forms. There was another one for mental health professionals. Because of time, we won't share that today, but we will share in the future. And it was distributed through social media, community groups, etc. This was voluntary. And the questions were adapted from the Doctors Against Genocide website with closed and open-ended questions. And then we collected demographic data as well. As we said, people had a short informed consent at the beginning, and this is just preliminary data. And we have also done a thematic analysis. This was done over the course of a couple of weeks, and we got 151 responses in the English survey, and there's a Spanish survey that got around 35 responses. So this is just some of the demographics. You can see it there. I will just go through it because we don't have much time. And mostly from people in the healthcare sector, which, well, is of course because we are all people who shared it are in the healthcare sector, and people in education also, and some retired people. There were people who were researchers, students, social workers, etc. And most of the half of the participants were from the US. So just as a way of listing, we separated the survey in the different sections or different aspects that witnessing the genocide can affect. So we have here psychological impact, and you can see there that we extracted some quotes that people added. Besides, you can see there it's questions, answers that people added on their own as other. So mostly people feel a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger and outrage and helplessness. And also, well, you can see there the quotes, it's like trauma by proxy and feelings of increasing alienation from all settler colonial societies. Many people said also they felt lost and disgusted and heartbroken. We have the physical impact, where you can see that there's a lot of problems with sleeping, a lot of fatigue, a lot of exacerbation of previous physical issues, tension, a lot of teeth grinding. One person said they literally have heartache, literally heartache. And this quote here that says the person couldn't eat and they lost 15 pounds during the first months, and it's harder to recover from common colds, for example. Regarding the cognitive impact, we see that there's a lot of obsessive or ruminant thinking, a lot of confusion. Many people report having a shorter attention span and heightened sensitivity. Here, a lot of obsession with the news. And as you can see there, just the realization or disassociation. So is this reality? And linking it to the systemic gaslighting and impunity that we see. Then we have behavioral impact, people who have started, for example, smoking or drinking again, or drinking more. This is more relational, but difficulty being with people that have not engaged or haven't said anything about the genocide, impossible to make small talk, and loss of interest in physical. Somebody said, I lost my interest in physical activities that I used to enjoy, and people have been engaging in, for example, self-harm. And regarding the relational impact, so a lot of people say they have been feeling withdrawn from their usual circles. A lot of people, as somebody had mentioned before, had cut off relationships with people, and this can be either because they find out they, for example, support Israel, or they are silent. And again, people avoiding small talk or not being able to engage in regular conversations. But on a quote unquote positive aspect, many people found a new community, especially in community of activists and organizers. Here is a response in Spanish that says, I'm avoiding people so I don't punch them in the face if they are saying something silly about Palestine. And they feel cut off from friends who don't seem to care. Also, this disbelief that people can just go on with life as usual. We have also spiritual impact. We have a lot of disappointment, understandably, with religious and political leaders, feelings of emptiness and apathy, loss of meaning or mistrust. But also there were some people that felt a connection with a greater purpose. And besides the survey, from what I've heard, people feel connected to that when they start participating, in communities as well. So it's related to the relational part. And as you can see here, this is the item where people added most of their own, their own experiences, because as we know, there's a lot of people whose jobs, they have even either lost their job or have been threatened to lose their jobs or receive a complaint if they talk about Palestine in the workplace. So a lot of people saying that they genuinely fear of jeopardizing their job when they talk about Palestine. They don't feel connected with their work team as before. They have lost respect for management, or they have self-censored to protect themselves, to avoid backlash. So somebody named a moral injury at colleague silences, or somebody was saying, oh, maybe I lost jobs. I don't know, but maybe I lost a job because I talked about Palestine. Some people have had to quit. Their performances have been affected. there were a significant percentage that said there weren't significant changes to their performance or work. But if you see here, what we wanted to focus on in the quotes, people have been threatened, they have been told that they shouldn't talk about Palestine because they are, their managers or their organizations are looking at what they do with their emails and laptops, etc. And also some people have started decolonizing their practice, for example, mental health professionals or healthcare workers in general. And somebody in Spanish saying, my motivation has decreased at work when I see the violence, the genocide, the racism, the hate speech, and human rights violations. Then we have the level of engagement. There were quite a few that were very engaged with the news and also were attending demonstrations frequently. So within the sample, there was a good amount of engagement. Of course, this was shared among people that we might know or might be in the community that engages more. But also, interestingly, people say that they go through waves of being very invested, but then they get overwhelmed and they need to disassociate or avoid a little bit. Somebody started a nonprofit institute, and some people started podcasts as well. And we have the factors that impact engagement. So here you can see the thematic analysis. And again, I'm not going to read through all of it, but I can send the PowerPoint to people who are interested. So factors that affect is emotional and feeling emotional and moral responsibility to be engaged, whether they are Palestinian or they are in a relationship with a Palestinian person or not. Feelings of personal connections. So for example, here, being Arab myself and having experienced Israeli violence firsthand as a Lebanese person. The mental health and well-being is a big factor in the sense that it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and experience compassion fatigue, for example, or burnout. Also, it's important, an important factor is community and social support. So as I said before, people have found a new community with whom they can participate. And one of the big barriers, as we said, is, being afraid for their livelihood. And we have personal convictions, political beliefs, and cultural context. So depending on the country where we are as well. And then, 93.4% said that they feel they have a space where they can talk about the genocide. That's good. Many with their friends and family, most with a community of activists, which seems to be a common topic or a pattern. Somebody said, I speak in my classrooms because I refuse to be silent. And somebody else, I'm not afraid to talk about the genocide in my workplace. In fact, I feel it's my responsibility. And of course, this is just preliminary. It would be interesting to explore what would be the correlation in different countries where levels of repression are different or censorship is different, or if this varies by gender identity or ethnicity, for example. Then we have another thematic analysis of the impact of being able to talk about the genocide. People feel emotional relief and validation, a sense of sanity. So a validation of what I'm feeling is real, it's true, it's valid. A feeling of community and solidarity again. Feeling hope because when you're acting, and in a community, it's easier, to feel more hope. So talking about it solidifies and strengthens the support that we have for one another. And then somebody also saying that this has allowed them to deepen their understanding of the history of Palestine and also how these patterns work. So it has ripples. Doesn't only stay in Palestine. And on the other hand, people that are not able to talk feel frustrated, angry, feel isolated and gaslit, and they have fear of consequences. Okay. So I'm sorry if this was too fast. I'm going to stop sharing so I share the final reflections. And you can see my face maybe if you want to. Again, this is just the preliminary data, so we cannot draw concrete conclusions right now, and the final, analysis would include correlating with gender, with ethnicity, with the country that the people live in. I'm just going to share a couple of reflections and I will be done. Yeah, so this is projected to be eventually either a research or an article in a newspaper, sending it to a medium. And it also serves as a way to create a sense of connection and common humanity. So people in different parts of the world experiencing similar feelings and effects. And this is part of compassionate action. So it's realizing that we share experiences, and this serves to fight isolation and make our work more sustainable. Again, not to put ourselves at the center, but to find strength in numbers and to contribute a little bit more to the awareness that this is not an issue occurring in a faraway land, but it is interconnected to the world, to other systemic issues, and to our well-being. So our well-being cannot be, the well-being of Palestinians cannot be detached from the rest of the world. And also to contribute to a decolonized view of mental health. So yeah, thank you. Oh, we are a lot over the time, but thank you for listening. If you need the PowerPoint, please write to my email. Thank you.
Thank you, Tere. Thank you so much. If I could ask everyone to stay muted and close your camera. We thank you so much for staying over time. We're 15 minutes over. So we had hoped to open space for questions and answers, but I'm going to let you know that a group of us therapists are opening a space called Sick from Genocide Healing Circle. So someone will post a link in the chat to a form which you can fill so that you can join this healing circle. It will be a time-limited group of maybe 6 or 8 sessions. We can meet together and speak. I am so grateful to everyone who's here. You have been absolutely phenomenal, the speakers, the participants. Very heartfelt, deep thanks to the interpreters. It's a really hard job and they did it just, the only return is love and camaraderie, and we're very grateful to you. And what else do I need to say? That's all. Thank you. Have a good weekend. And what I like to always end, keep talking about Palestine, keep posting, keep disrupting, and never stop believing that Palestine will be free. And inshallah, next year in Al-Quds. Take care, everyone.